Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are and whenever you're listening. I want to welcome you to the Mortgage Mindset. We are going to be talking about overcoming buyer objections today. This episode is really going to be helpful for anyone who handles the lead to close conversion. I think anyone who handles that has heard these three objections before. And sometimes you get into a place where you're wondering, what do I say? What are other people saying? I think it's going to be really good for you. My name is Hunter Boyd. I am the Director of Sales for the Share Rihanna team. Today we are joined by Chris Brazel, Director of Operations. What's up, dude?
How we doing today?
I'm good. I think you and I hear a lot of these three objections today, and we've kind of developed a pattern, a script. We have a book in the office called Chrisisms, and they are things that Chris says, and things like oh, come on, give me one right now.
The whole ball of wax.
Whole ball of wax is a good one.
I use that one quite often.
Yes, the market is cyclical. Yes, I love that one. I have adopted that one myself.
Well, that one is very apropos with what we're talking about today.
It is. So let's jump into the first one we hear. I want to wait until rates drop. We've heard this for 2 years now. And for 2 years, we've seen homes appreciate year over year. Homes that were $300,000 2 years ago are now $330,000, $340,000. We're seeing the market just continue to rise. Chris, when you get a buyer on the phone, or if they're in person here in the office with us taking a nap with you, and they tell you, hey, look, man, I appreciate your time. I just want to wait until the rates drop. What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
Well, there's a couple things, but one of the main things I talk to a client about is I don't focus on the rate. What is your monthly or your comfort level with the monthly mortgage payment?
Yep.
Because if you're okay with paying $2,000 a month and you're like, yep, I'm good with that amount of money, what does it matter what rate gets you to that $2,000 a month payment? So back it in the other way. Start with what the comfort level is on your monthly mortgage payment, and then say, okay, well, here's what a loan amount would look like at that payment. Now, go see if you can find a house with that. Let's start by dissecting it backwards, as opposed to, I like this house, but I want my payment to fit where it is based on today's rates. If you're focused on it like that, then you kind of paint yourself into a corner. And so if we are able to get to a borrower quick enough in the process, up front, ideally, before they even start looking at houses, that's how we focus on it, is that, okay, here's your payment. No matter what the rate is, here's what it's going to look like as far as a loan amount. Then we talk about what your comfort level is with cash out of pocket, and we back into it and say, okay, you should be looking at 350, 375 price points.
That's it.
And that way, take the focus off the rate. Because what if rates don't drop? You're never going to buy a house just because you don't like the fact that everybody's been telling you for 2 years that rates are high, rates are high, rates are high. I can tell you from personal experience, I bought my first house down here in North Carolina.
1726.
Yeah, you some bitch. It was not quite, but it was 2005. It felt like the 1700s. But so back then, the rate of my house was in the 7% range, and that's where rates were back then.
Yep.
If I waited to buy back then, I don't know. I would have missed out on a lot of opportunity. I bought my house in Holly Springs. Back in 2005, it was a podunk little one-horse town. And if you live in this area, you know what Holly Springs is like now.
Yeah.
So I would have missed a golden opportunity to literally invest in myself and my family in real estate, which is one of the biggest investments and best investments you can make as young, old, no matter what, but you're investing in yourself. And so if I was so concerned about that interest rate and not buying at that time, I would have missed out on a ton of equity that I made over, owning that house for 17 years.
Yep.
So, that's what it is. You got to take the focus off the rate. Because again, what if rates don't drop? I mean, if you're chasing a 2-3% rate that we were at during the pandemic, you're going to be waiting a lifetime, because those are once in a lifetime rates that are never going to come back. Unless God forbid another worldwide pandemic comes back, which none of us want. So.
Well, and that's exactly where I was going to go, is what's their perspective?
Yeah.
Are you talking about, if you look at month over month, this is June 2024, rates are dropping right now.
Correct.
Comparatively to 2 months ago, 2 months ago, we're seeing lower interest rates. So, what is the wait until rates drop? That's an ambiguous what's that?
Go with it, brother.
Yeah,
Go with it.
That word. That doesn't make sense because rates are dropping. So what's the starting point and what's the finish line that you're looking for? If you're looking for another 100-year low type interest rate environment, you most likely will never see that again. But if you look at the past 30 years where the average is just over 7%, rates are definitely dropping. So I think buyer education, especially for the millennial, is really important because the millennials grew up in the 4 or 5% rates, and then they saw the rates go to 2 and 3%, and then it's really just not the cost of money when you look at real estate and for the past 30 years.
Yep. And we don't talk enough about appreciation and equity. People think appreciation's a good thing. Well, it's only a good thing if you already own the house. If you're waiting to buy that house because real estate is appreciating right now, then guess what? Every month, every day that you wait to buy that house on waiting on a lower interest rate, that's money out of your pocket by not buying that house and realizing the appreciation for yourself and your family. That's what builds equity. They don't go hand in hand unless you own a house. Yeah. In this market, we're lucky enough to be in a good, strong real estate market where there is consistent appreciation year to year. You only gain that appreciation or realize that appreciation by actually taking the step and investing in a house. No matter the rate is temporary, that appreciation is year after year that you're going to see money in your pocket.
Yep. And to go right along with, I want to wait until rates drop. I want to buy when the market crashes again. Well, there's going to be a huge market correction like there was in 2008, and I don't want to buy now because my home's worth $100,000 less in a year or two, I think. That's the second really objection we hear a lot right now, and I think this comes from a lack of understanding on the buyer's standpoint, and just a lack of just education on what guidelines were in 2008 that led to that crash and where they're at now. You and I love our daily guideline emails that we get. Hey, this investor's changed this guideline. This investor's done this with the guidelines. However, the general public doesn't understand that there's so many more layers of protection built into loans now than there were almost 20 years ago.
Correct.
Because 20 years ago happened.
That's correct.
And so, when you hear that, man, what's your response?
So it's easy. Here's the dirty little secret that's out there is that there was a market crash in 2008 and 2010, but guess what? It didn't affect the whole country. Here in the Triangle, we were not affected by that. It might have stabilized where we weren't seeing 5, 6, 7% appreciation in our houses. Maybe it was 1 or 2.
Yep.
But we weren't upside down in our houses. So the newsmakers were the places like Florida, California, New York, places like that where there are a lot of investment properties, a lot of people that were overpaying for houses because a lot of people were moving there. And it was a false market in the false real estate market in those areas. And what that meant was, people were buying and selling houses as quickly as they could. Every time they sold it, it was appraising higher because, well, I could get into that, but appraisers are also under a whole new code of conduct that they have to go by nowadays.
Yep.
It wasn't quite like that back then. If they needed a house to appraise for what the sales price was, it happened a lot easier than it does now. So it was a straw built market back then. But in the Triangle, we were almost like a bubble that was protected from that crash. I know very few people that went upside down in their houses during that time frame. I lived through that. I was in the business then. I owned a house then, and my house never lost value. And so with that being said, it's almost like waiting for that 2% interest rate. If you're waiting for the market to crash and you're buying in this area, good luck. I mean, it's not going to happen. Well, I hope to God it doesn't happen. I would never say anything's 100% guaranteed, but I haven't seen it yet, and I hope to God we don't see it because we live in a great part of the country. People are moving here. It has everything you want, business, low taxes, and everything. So, it's a great area to live and buy.
Yeah, and we do business in just about anywhere my accent would fit, right? Like, Alabama, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Tennessee, Virginia. We're all over, but North Carolina specifically has made it very advantageous for big businesses to move into the area. And that's, whether you agree with state politics or not, it's just a fact of the matter. We've been very big business focused, and that's why we get companies like Meta looking in at us, and Amazon and Google, Apple. We get these companies that, kind of poke an eye in and just try to check it out. And with those big companies, they bring employees, and those employees bring families. That's going to continue to drive the market in this area as we continue to grow. We're going to see more people. They're not making any more land, more people, less availability. That's going to increase the purchase price. That's going to increase appreciation year over year.
Yep.
And I think, I think there was like a 1 or 2% just tick automatically when was it Google that moved in a couple years ago or announced they were coming in.
Yep.
And you saw appreciation immediately in the market because the people understood, like, they're bringing more people. They're bringing high paying jobs. It's an increase in the market immediately.
Yeah. When that happened, we saw an uptick in people calling about investment properties because they knew that more people were going to be moving here, and people calling from California, what's it called? San Jose area, the tech sector. They're calling from that area because they were going to move out here to follow it, just because it's, relatively speaking, as far as taxes and things like that, this area is a better place to live.
Yeah.
And so, and it's economics 101, supply and demand.
That's exactly right.
If you drive down the road now, they can't build houses quick enough. Our inventory is still low in this area.
Yep.
I think, what is it now? It's 2 months that houses are average sitting on the market, something to that extent. It fluctuates, but it's not very long, relatively speaking. A housing crash is when a house sits on the market for a year, 2 years, something like that. That just is not the case right now. I don't know if I've ever seen it in this area in the 20 years I've been in the mortgage business.
Any market you can advertise investor special, basically meaning the house is a wreck.
Yeah.
And conventionally, you're not going to be able to finance it. However, cash, you can do things like that. That means that even the worst of the worst level of properties are still getting bought up.
Right.
That's a strong signal that market's really not going anywhere.
Yep.
And then the last thing that we get is, should I get a loan if I have cash? And agents and loan officers have reached out to us about this question, how we handle this. And I really think that kind of comes back to, where's your cash being held? I mean, if there's a penalty, if you're taking it out of retirement, you're paying the penalty on that. If it's in the stocks and bonds and you're getting a 9% an interest rate of return, I think there really needs to be some math done there on what does a 6.5-7% interest rate somewhere in there look like versus what you're gaining. Also, if you're getting a return on the property, like an investment property, and someone else is paying that interest rate, do you really want to pull that out?
Correct.
If someone else is going to be paying that bill anyways. Well, what do you think?
Yeah, let your money work for you where it sits right now. Anytime you pull money out of any kind of investment, IRA, 401k, stocks, bonds, CDs, things like that, you're taking money away from yourself by not gaining the interest that you're going to get in those avenues. When you buy real estate, even though you're taking out a loan that does have an interest rate tied to it that you're going to pay back interest on, you're still gaining the appreciation in the house. So right there should offset most of the interest, especially in this area. So year after year, you're not losing money because you're offsetting the interest by the appreciation, and therefore you're making money by leaving it where it sits right now, where your portfolio manager or CPA or anybody like that that's guiding you with your investments and things like that. They put your money where it is because they think it's a safe, strong place for your money to sit to work for you. Why take it out and put it into something that's going to work for you as well with the appreciation? Let the real estate do what it's going to do. Let your money and the investments do what it's going to do based on what your money manager said was the best avenue for you. And literally, it's a win-win. People think it's a bad thing to take out a mortgage. It's really not in this area because you're going to get that appreciation that's going to basically offset that interest that you're paying back on the mortgage.
You got it. You got it.
It's in it like anything. It's a fine balance. Maybe you're buying a $700,000 house and you don't want to borrow $650 on that, but maybe you borrow $500, $450, something like that, where your comfort level sits, and that way you're not taking all your money out. Maybe you take some of it out, get a loan for the rest, and that way you're comfortable with the payment, you're comfortable with the cash out of pocket, you're leaving a majority of your money where it sits, and also you're allowing that house to appreciate for you, making money for you on the side.
Yeah, I think also the fact that we don't deal with any prepayment penalties.
Correct.
So if someone gets like a windfall of cash and they want to pay it off in a year's time or 2 years time or something like that, they're not stuck in a 30-year mortgage. You can pay it off at an accelerated pace or all at once. It's just the fact of the matter of being able to hold on to your cash for a little bit longer. Making sure you're making the right decision with that cash. That's really where a loan could step in and help.
That's a good point. I agree.
Well, look, thank you for listening. Hopefully these objections that we've kind of handled today will be helpful for you and your business. If you have any more specific questions, please reach out to us. Our number is 919-234-7415, and we are team@thesharereonateam.com for an email address. Those numbers are monitored 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every single day. We want to help you with clients. If you're facing an objection that we didn't address today, we'd love to hear about it. Shoot us an email, give us a call. We'll help you figure out how to overcome that. My name is Hunter. This has been The Mortgage Mindset. Thanks, Chris, for being a part today.
Thank you.
The Mortgage Mindset podcast is hosted by the Share Reona team at Clear Mortgage, powered by City First Mortgage Services, LLC. Share Reona's NMLS ID is 71774. Visit us at thesharereonateam.com for more information about our team. The opinions expressed on this show by the hosts and their guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of Clear Mortgage or City First Mortgage Services. Please note that Clear Mortgage is powered by City First Mortgages, LLC, and their NMLS ID is 3117. Clear Mortgage and City First Mortgage Services is not an agency of the federal government and is not acting on behalf of or the direction of HUD FHA. City First Mortgage Services is an equal housing lender. Programs, rates, and terms subject to change without notice. Underwriting terms and conditions apply.